fire, strumming along with our favorite lyre. Adventure call, the quest awaits, your destiny's in the hands of the fates. But never fear, we're all friends here, we'll have your back when danger's near. Come with us through the pages as we unravel a tale for the ages into the Percy-Verse.
Hello and welcome to the Percy-Verse Podcast. I'm Alisa.
And I'm Anna. Take a taxi ride through the desert and get limber, because today we're reading Chapter 17, We Shop for Waterbeds.
Stretch it out. Nice
Stretch it out.
Big stretch.
Yeah, stretching cat today. It's safe. Don't worry.
Don't worry at all. You won't lose a limb, for
You
sure.
won't. Not even part of one.
No.
I mean, if you're exactly 6 feet tall, and you know who's listening who's exactly
That's
6
true.
feet tall,
You're
you're
good.
fine.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
even worry
you're
about
golden.
it. Before we get started today, I wanted to ask everyone if they would take a moment to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening, like the video, like the episode, leave a 5-star review, and help us share that we're doing this with other people and bring all of the Percy-Verse fandom together. So, thanks in advance, y'all.
Percy fans, unite.
Percy fans, unite! But I just absolutely love the first sentence of this chapter.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I feel like it probably could summarize many things throughout the books.
Yeah.
Which is simply, it was Annabeth's idea. Classic.
Oh, yeah. What's funny about that, when I read it this time, I was like, you can take that so many different ways. Like, it was Annabeth's idea can be positive in the way that it is.
Yeah.
But it could also be, like, it was her idea. Like, in
Totally.
a kind of, like, negative, like...
Don't blame
and then,
me.
Right. And then we got in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Kind of
I
thing.
mean, back at the Arch, like, Annabeth's
Yeah.
idea, not so great.
Right.
In this scenario, pretty great.
Yeah.
I think this is a good example. We talk a lot about like audacity with like creative
Yes.
stuff and other things.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a really good example of audacity of like, I believe this will work and I'm just gonna try it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
She gets a big payoff.
Yes, because she gets them on the back of a Vegas taxi, tells the driver to take them to Los Angeles, which when you think about that, like someone driving them from Las Vegas to Los Angeles, you're basically asking a taxi driver to be your road trip chauffeur.
Yeah, that's a hike.
For you.
It's not just around the corner.
No. And she asks if the driver accepts casino debit cards, and he's like, some of them, sure. She hands over the Lotus
which is interesting.
cash. Yes, she hands over the Lotus cash card. He swipes it, and an infinity symbol comes up next to the dollar sign.
Wild.
It's so
I'm like,
wild.
at that point, maybe we abandon the quest and we go shopping.
Well,
That's cool. Also, I'm wondering, where are Percy and Grover's cards? Because that would have been useful once we got to LA.
true. Oh, good point.
Like,
Well-
did they not keep their cards?
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. But also just in general, I feel like these are then cards that as a demigod, you would just want to keep permanently for any and all future quests.
Oh my gosh.
But also, I feel like this brings me back to last week when we were trying to kind of understand like the Lotus Casino and how it works.
Yeah.
Like, these cards work in the regular mortal world, but then also have this magical, like, there's infinite money on it.
Yeah, it
And,
is
like,
a little
how-
interesting because the Lotus Casino is kind of out of time.
Yeah.
But you can take something from it into the regular flow
Right.
of time and it'll work, which
Right.
feels unusual for a magical like item or setting like that.
Yeah. So it's just, it continues to be a very fascinating place.
Agreed.
And I love that the driver's responses to how Annabeth, your highness, just be like, you must be royalty.
And I love that she loves it. She like
Yes.
sits up a little straighter.
Yeah.
She's like,
She's
yes,
like,
okay. Where's my
She's like,
crown?
that is correct. Yeah.
Yeah. No, she's into it.
And then she first says the Santa Monica Pier. So also shout out to Annabeth for having that memory locked and loaded of like where they need to be going.
The corkboard, which is about to enter knowing things.
Yes.
In this chapter, the corkboard is filled up. You know, even though everybody's been dazed at the Lotus Casino.
Yeah.
She's got that spot that she marked from,
yes,
you know, back at the Mississippi. So she knows what's going on.
Yep. And when Annabeth tells the driver, get us there fast and you can keep the change, I want to know, on a card that brings up an infinity symbol, is the change of that essentially telling the driver you can keep the card? And she's just now changed this driver's life?
Absolutely.
like
better than winning the lottery.
Yeah.
We need the short story of this guy and how his life happened. Absolutely changed from here. Because
also, how
he
does he
living
file
large
his taxes?
somewhere. Assets, card with infinity money.
Right. How do you pay taxes?
The accountant's like,
what?
Say what? I don't think that's possible.
Yeah. No, I need to know like what happened to this man after he dropped them off in Santa Monica, because if I were a taxi driver and this happened to me and then I was essentially gifted a card with infinite money, dude, my life would be completely changed.
Absolutely.
That would be incredible.
Absolutely. And or you'd have a really bad gambling addiction because you can gamble infinity money and you live in Vegas.
That's true.
So I'm pulling for the sort of lives in a palace somewhere, has a wildly weird life.
Right.
But there is
fully
a darker version, I think.
The 2008 recession was
not a problem.
Anyway, not a problem.
Nope.
Oh man. So there's a couple, we're actually going to reach a couple later on. I feel like this chapter for me had a few of like, I just need a short story follow-up or a jump back in time short story to this moment.
Tell me. Yes, tell me more.
So that's definitely one of them. And I love that Percy's kind of like, maybe Annabeth shouldn't have told him to basically step on it. Because his speedometer never dipped below 95. The whole way Percy says through the Mojave Desert. But for me, I was like, that's just driving in Texas, y'all.
Yeah, I'm like, that sounds about right.
That's a regular city Texas highway. Like, it might not be the legal speed limit, but it's a speed limit everyone else is driving.
Yeah. I'm like, if it's under 100, then I'm not too worried in that area.
That's not speeding.
Because also, like, hopefully you're not around that many other cars and you're really just desert driving, you know?
Yeah, But it just made me think of how from my understanding of my limited travel throughout the United States, is that different regions kind of have different like speed standards for like how fast or slow people tend to drive.
And there are highways that don't have speed limits on them.
Yes.
In certain parts of the country.
And I do feel like Texas has a bit of a reputation of like everyone's going 100 miles an hour. And someone who lives and drives here. It is. You just got a long way to go anywhere you're trying to go. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because they have a long way to go here as well, they have plenty of time to talk. Mm-hmm. And Percy finally gets to tell Annabeth and Grover about his dream.
Yes.
But it's all scrambled like eggs, except less delicious because he does not remember exactly all the details that would be most useful.
Yeah.
Even so, Annabeth comes up with some conclusions.
Yep.
But he starts out by talking about how the servant he had heard talking to the deep voice sounded like someone he knew, but he can't think of who it was. And I think this is like one of the sort of most impactful effects of the memory scrambling at the Lotus Casino is that it would go a really long way to uncovering some things if he could be like, oh, that's Luke's voice.
Yes. That in combination with if he could remember that Luke also then called Kronos the Crooked One.
Yes.
Those are like the two nails in the coffin of figuring this whole thing out.
Later there will be a coffin. But yes, he remembers that the monster in the pit had been called something other than my lord, but he cannot remember the Crooked One. Annabeth is suggesting names for Hades, the Silent One, the Rich One, which is kind of a I don't know. I feel like we could do even the wealthy one. Like we could have a better vibe, like sound to it.
The affluent one. The comfortable. The word, we were just comfortable.
We were just comfortable. One. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
The wasp. Sorry. White affluent. What is it? White affluent something Protestant or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're comfortable. How much money do you have? We're comfortable. And Grover thinks that the throne room that he saw in the dream after that does sound like Hades. But Percy knows something's wrong. His intuition is definitely on the right track. He doesn't have all the knowledge that Annabeth has, but per usual, his intuition is keeping up. And he's like, the throne room wasn't the main part of the dream. The voice from the pit, it didn't feel like a god's voice, which I thought was a very, very interesting thing for him to say. He has encountered some gods at this point. Not as many as he will. But I thought it was interesting that something in him knows that this isn't a god's voice. Yeah.
No, absolutely. That there's, and I think it's this, like, it's interesting when to read him having, because his memory is scrambled and not 100% there.
Yeah.
Like, he did actually fully experience the accuracy of the dream, and Kronos being the one to send him, like, do you want to see your mother? Fine, I will show her to you. So he did actually experience the fact that, like, that throne room was not actually the main point of the dream. But
totally.
It's kind of funny then to be reading this and be like, your intuition is right about something that you can't remember.
Yes.
Like, it's just a funny thing to be like, you don't have your memory, so you are having to use your intuition, but this is something that you did experience, and could you remember, you would just simply know. But now we're back to Percy having to, like, trust his gut and be like,
right,
I don't think those names sound right. The throne room wasn't the most important piece here. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Though I think, like, I don't know that Percy, even if he did remember the whole thing, I think Annabeth would have to give him the piece that it's not a god.
Like, absolutely.
That it's a titan, you know? So I think even just the fact that he somehow knows that, I find very impressive.
Yeah. There's something, I think it's probably like having, I would assume, interacted with, at this point, Ares enough that, like, I think he's kind of tapped into, there's a different gravitas with, like, gods are at a certain level, but this voice has a different gravitas, a different je ne sais quoi, if you will. It's got a little bit more going on than just, like, the gods that I've heard.
Well, and I feel like throughout, like, various series with Percy, it's like characters can get a sense of how ancient things are. Like, even with Gia's voice later, like, it's kind of like you get a sense of something that gets closer and closer to, like, a primordial being. It, like, feels different. And, like, even the way that before it's been, like, metallic and it's, like, messed with time. And, you know, it's, like, I think it feels more, like, fundamental than a god. And he's probably picking up on some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Not to, like, sidetrack us, but I have never known how to pronounce. You just pronounced it Gia?
I have heard both Gia and Gaia, and as I said it, I was like, I know that once we start talking about her regularly, we're going to need to come with a consensus.
Because my brain has always pronounced it Gaia. When I've read it. So neither of the two ways
I love that
you've heard it. I saw Gaea and my brain went Gaia. That's what that is.
She's just a rainbow queen. That's what she is. That's hilarious.
So yeah,
I am pretty sure the audiobooks say Gia, which is why I say Gia.
Really?
But I know that I've heard Gaia in other contexts.
Yes. Not Gaia though.
I've never heard Gaia though. I like it.
Okay. So the problem of being an only book reader and never an audiobook person is I never know how these things are pronounced. Ever.
Yeah.
Never.
Well, and the thing is, like, audiobooks don't always get things 100% right, which is why I sometimes. But we will have to come up with some consensus on that when we get there.
Yep. Okay. All right.
Yeah. I love that. I'm sure leave in the chat how you pronounce Gia, Gaia. Did anyone else pronounce it like Alisa?
Is there fourth?
I need to know.
Is there fun?
Is there
way?
another pronunciation?
Yes.
Tell us all the things.
Yeah.
We need to know.
So,
okay, so back to the chapter. Percy's got this great intuition, and as he says, I don't know, it just didn't feel like a god's voice. Annabeth's eyes widen. And I wrote, by George, she's got it. And you can see that like final red string on the corkboard being drawn in her mind. Everything's clicking into place, and she knows who's responsible.
But she doesn't yet. She's not ready yet to communicate it. But
oh no,
Percy's immediately able to see that like she's scared. Because Percy like asks her what, and she tries to brush off. She's like, no, it's nothing. And then she kind of outwardly doubles down that it has to be Hades. And she, it's funny, she gets kind of close to Kronos' plan a bit here, because she's saying maybe he sent this thief and something went wrong. And it got like lost somehow or failed to bring it back. Like maybe that would kind of explain, which, you know, she is kind of catching on that like Luke did successfully steal it, but Ares did in hunting it down, find it. And so
intervene.
Yeah, he did kind of fail in that like he wasn't able to successfully kind of mask everything and prevent any of the gods from finding it. But yeah, Percy's just like fully, Annabeth is like fully pale, and I can't imagine being so smart to be able to like put that together and then just have to sit with, it's not a god that's behind this. Yeah. It's a Titan. It's like the father of Zeus.
Yeah.
In Tartarus, which means that he's gathered enough strength and power to be able to like exert his will and influence.
Well, and she knows like strategies. So she's like, and he's wanting the gods to fight each other. Like I'm sure the pieces of the plan are like making sense to her, but she is trying to make any other explanation work because oh my gosh, does she not want it to be this? And it kind of reminded me this part where she and Grover kind of tag team trying to make it make sense of like Percy and the whole rest of the book trying to make everything make sense. I was like, this is usually Percy's job, but in this case it's like Annabeth and Grover, you know, because Percy's like, but if I'd already retrieved the bolt, why would I be traveling to the underworld? And he's like starting to be like, wait, but it isn't making sense. And Grover's like, to threaten Hades, to bribe or blackmail him into getting your mom back. And he goes, Percy says, you have evil thoughts for a goat, which I thought was kind of funny. But I'm just like, even Percy's like, wait a minute, I don't think it is making sense. And Annabeth and Grover are like, no, let's just, we got to double down. We got to keep going because we put everything into this and the alternative is very scary.
No, yeah. And then they come back. Percy comes back to like, but the thing in the pit said it's waiting for 2 items. So if the Master Bolt's one, what's the other one? And this is when we get another moment of Annabeth really knows what's going on, but is just too afraid to say it because Grover's just confused. But Annabeth was looking at Percy as if she knew his next question was silently willing him not to ask it. And that's when Percy just straight up asks Annabeth, you have an idea what might be in that pit, don't you? I mean, if it isn't Hades. And Annabeth literally is just like, let's not talk about it, because if it isn't Hades. And she's like, no, it has to be Hades. It has to be Hades. I cannot fathom or allow myself
That's the mantra. It has to be Hades.
It has to be Hades. It has to be Hades. It has to be
But
Hades.
I love that Percy knows Annabeth well enough at this point to like know what she's thinking. I think that's kind of a cute element of this moment where he's like, you know, my corkboard might only have 1 or 2 red strings on it, but I can see that you have figured something else out on yours.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And we kind of, like towards the end of this section, we get again that Percy is just feeling that he's missing one really simple critical piece of information, and the more he's thinking about it, the more he's sure that confronting Hades isn't the real answer, but he just, because of Lotus Casino and that dream getting scrambled before he told Annabeth and Grover about it, he just doesn't have the information that is like floating in his mind somewhere. He just can't. Yeah, he just can't reach it.
Which is the worst feeling.
Oh my god!
When you know something,
yes,
but you can't think of it.
Yep.
Yeah, the worst.
Is the most frustrating.
Especially when it implies that something really dangerous is going on that you can't figure out. That sucks.
And you're on kind of a life or death quest situation to save the world, and you just feel like you're missing that one thing that would make it all make sense.
Yeah, that's kind of the worst moment for that. It's making me think of how this concept is turned up to like level, 1,000,000 in The Lost Hero and
oh my god,
Neptune,
oh my god,
it's like
seriously,
there's just like many pieces of information that I can't think of.
Give or take about 16
everything
years of information.
Just my whole life. I know my name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway, I just little premonition here toward that.
I just got so excited for when we get to those books. And
oh my god. They're literally my favorite. I can't wait. I know.
Reading those in depth. Oh my god. Sorry. I keep on sidetracking us, but I am just
it's going to be so fun. No, I love those books so much.
Oh, they're the best. Okay. Yeah. But then we kind of close out this section with Annabeth again trying to be like, she is now like closing in on the truth, which is the answer is in the underworld. She's still trying to cling on to it's Hades, but she is correct that the answer lies in the underworld. They're doing the right thing by going there. And
when she specifically says that he saw spirits of the dead in his dream.
Yeah.
And I think like this is decent logic to be like,
yes,
if nothing else, even if it isn't Hades, you're seeing an area that looks like the underworld. There's spirits of the dead. Because Percy's, like, really thinking about the consequences of if it's not Hades.
Right.
Because of their time in the Lotus Casino, there's just, like, not time to, like, try a different option, to reset, to chart a new course. There will literally be a war if they're wrong about where this is. So I think from a writing perspective, this is great, like, stakes setting. And then from the characters, it's like, all right, well, like, we don't have anything else to follow. And it lines up just enough. Yeah. And then I like that Annabeth goes on to boost their morale by suggesting clever strategies for getting into the land of the dead.
Yeah. She's like, all right, boost morale by brainstorming. Everyone loves to brainstorm.
And they're like, no.
Like, no. That's your thing.
That's your thing. I need blue jelly beans.
Yeah. I was literally just thinking about the fact that, like, half of what makes this quest so hard and time consuming is that because Percy is the son of Poseidon, they can't fly.
Totally.
Like, this quest, they could have just taken like a red eye from New York City to LA, been there like the next day. There, of course, would have like run into issues and there still would have been all these shenanigans and stuff, but it's just so funny to me, like how much, and in general with all the quests, just like Percy's inability to be in the sky just causes so many problems from like a base just like transportation issue.
Totally. I think it's smart because like one of the things that authors have to contend with in writing books set in the modern time period is technology. And so it's really smart to be like, you can't use cell phones because the monsters can track you. You can't fly because you're the son of Poseidon. And so it's like it's important because if we're trying to like do Greek mythology in the modern age, then we need the quest to be long and arduous and difficult and so it's a good way to literally ground everyone so that they have to do that.
So they can't just be like, hey, we hopped on the red eye and then we just kind of got there.
We're here. Hello. Hades. Tell me all the things.
But as they are making their way through Death Valley, I love this description that every gust of wind through Death Valley sounded like a spirit of the dead. As just kind of, it felt like an omen, just kind of like a portent of like what is to come, and also just that it feels like we are a way of being like, okay, we are truly in the third and final act of this thing, and it's about to get very serious.
I also like the idea that like the mortal realm above the underworld has sounds like that. Like I think it's like a cool indication of what's below the ground.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fun. I also liked the description where Percy says there were just too many unknown factors. It was like cramming for a test without knowing the subject. And believe me, I'd done that enough times. Which I thought was funny. Yeah. I just appreciate like he was also talking about like when it feels like something's missing. It's like when letters are floating around. Like I think just kind of continuing to thread throughout how like he thinks of the world in relationship to his dyslexia or to his ADHD is like really cool to get the like insight in his mind of that perspective. Absolutely. But I was just thinking that because I was like, okay, Annabeth brainstorming soothes her, right? And I was like, Percy would want blue jelly beans. Grover wants tin cans. And then I was like, Percy and Grover, part of their friendship is like food based.
Yeah.
They're like food buddies. Like they both really like and are soothed, you know, by like their favorite food. So that just made their friendship more adorable.
Oh, that's true
to think about.
Just food buds.
So just food buds.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, and every time the brakes hissed on an 18-wheeler, it reminds Percy of Echidna's reptilian voice. And so it's a very ominous kind of journey through the desert, which, you know, can be a vibe sometimes when you're going through the desert. And I was just thinking too, I feel like this chapter is doing something similar to a lot of the previous chapters, particularly once you get to the middle of the book, where it has like 3 sections. There's a lot of these like 3-section chapters. And so now we're going into our second section of the chapter.
Yes. And so we arrive at Santa Monica. And according to Percy, it looked exactly the way LA beaches do in the movies, only it smelled worse. And we get this description of there are carnival rides lining the pier and palm trees lining the sidewalks, and we're kind of like setting the scene of what Santa Monica looks like. And the 3 of them walk down to the edge of the surf, and Annabeth is just kind of like, all right, well, what now? So what happens next?
I love this part.
And I kind of love the moment where it really hits Percy how giant the ocean is. Because he's just kind of staring at it, realizing that he's looking at the Pacific, and the last time he was at a beach, he was at Montauk on the other side of the country. And he just goes, how could there be a god who could control all that? And then he remembers his science teacher saying that 2/3 of the Earth's surface is covered in water. And then he goes, how could I be the son of someone that powerful? And I feel like Percy's just having this like deeply existential moment of like, the ocean is vast and my father.
Who am I?
Yeah.
That's our moment.
Yes. And I love it in that just like existential, it's so vast and big and powerful, and I am the son of the god of that person. He just kind of starts walking into the ocean.
Yep.
He just kind of like follows that energy, like walking in, and Annabeth is like, what are you doing? And he continues walking. He's waist deep, then chest deep. And she's like, it's really, what you do is really polluted. And he just fully head under the water.
Yep. Just like cuts her off. I know. I think it's so funny. He just like doesn't explain what he's going to do.
No.
He just walks in to the water, and Annabeth and Grover, like imagine their version of this part of the chapter where they're just standing there
totally.
Like, is he okay? Do we go in after him? We can't breathe underwater. That looks great. How long do we wait for him till we worry?
Because like I imagine this scene like from like how you'd shoot it in a movie. So like Percy's like camera POV is like there's like ethereal music, you're really in the existential at all. You're staring at the sunset, how it's glittering on the water, and you're just feeling all these emotions as you follow him go all the way down. And then you just like zoom back to like Grover and Annabeth standing there just like watching their friend silently like
totally just like so confused, just slightly alarmed,
asking so many questions he's not responding.
Yep. And then you cut back to da 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 da.
Yep.
She's like going into the.
Yep, fully. But yeah, he goes fully head underwater, and it kind of takes him a second to let himself breathe underwater.
Understandable.
Yes, and I love that we have this moment where it's like he knows that he can, but he's not used to that ability yet, and so his like human instincts are like, no, you cannot breathe underwater, and it's not.
He's only done it once before without thinking, you know.
Yes. Yeah. And so I love that we have that he like literally holds his breath until he can't stand it, and then that's when he gasps and he can breathe normally, and he's like, okay,
you know,
I'm fine.
I think this is the first example we have, maybe. Usually demigods are like get the worst end of the stick on both directions of mortal and god. I feel like this is one of our first only examples of like he gets the best of both worlds, where he can breathe above water and below water.
True. Yeah. Yeah. And then he also is kind of realizing that like he can see through the murk and he can tell where everything is.
I thought this was so cool.
Yeah, which is really, really cool. He can see the rolling texture of the bottom. He can see sand dollar colonies, and he can even see the currents, the warm and the cold streams swirling together. And then he notices that something is rubbing against his leg. And he looks down, and just sliding casually right beside him is a 5-foot long... Mako? What do we think? What do we think that is?
I think
Mako shark. Which would freak me out. Like, would just absolutely terrify me.
But it's just a puppy.
It's just a little pup.
It's just a cute little
attacking.
Water pup.
It's just nuzzling, you know. And Percy reaches out and touches its dorsal fin. And it kind of bucked a little, just be like, yeah, grab on, dude. And so he grabs it with both hands, and it just shoots off.
So cool.
And then it deposits him at the edge of the ocean proper, where the sandbank drops off into a huge chasm. And it's described as it was like standing on the rim of the Grand Canyon at night, not being able to see much, but knowing the void was right there.
Scary.
That like makes me feel like a pit in my stomach of like, that is terrifying. And you have been to the Grand Canyon. Yeah. But you've been there. Like, imagine standing there.
No, I know. I was imagining. It's terrifying. Because the thing about the Grand Canyon, at least in my experience, is like you see a picture of the Grand Canyon and you're like, that looks really big. Yeah. Then you get there and you look at it and you're like, am I looking at the picture or the Grand Canyon? Because it's like so big that I feel like my brain can't like actually comprehend the size of it. Right. And so then if you add like dark mode, you know, to that, I'm like, oh no, that's really scary. Like I would just be immobilized. Like that sounds quite alarming.
Yes. Yeah.
And then not like beyond that, this is the vastness of the ocean. So it's like that, except it goes on forever, like for a really, really long ways.
And there are creatures and all sorts of things swimming around.
And then Percy has this interesting question of if there's a limit. I was really curious. It's like he was in my brain and he was like, I need to ask the question that the YouTubers are going to ask.
Right.
Which is there a limit to how far he can go?
Yeah.
Or could he sink all the way to the bottom and just walk?
Right.
And it's like, is there an alternate universe? And granted, maybe he does do this later because I haven't read all the like later books. Yeah. Where he becomes a marine biologist and he goes down to figure out what is actually out there in the depths because we need to know.
Yeah. He discovers like all of the mythical beings that are actually living down there. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Like it's like when people backpack through Europe, but it's just like walking the bottom of the ocean.
Walking the Mariana Trench, is that?
Yeah, right. Instead of like the Camino in Spain, he walks the trench. Totally. I'm just like, anyway, I just think it's a fascinating thing, and that goes back to another like demigod, where he would have the human curiosity of what is out there and not knowing, but the demigod ability to like go deep in the ocean. So. Yeah. I want to know what's there.
That made me remember whatever book it is where he actually does go visit his dad.
I was thinking about that.
I couldn't remember how deep that actually is.
Yes.
And if that kind of answers this question for us, because I remember that we get a description, and I feel like I remember it being quite deep, but I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, I just don't remember. I don't know that it's like anglerfish deep. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but I was thinking about that part here too. Like, we know, I imagine there's not a limit. Like, I don't know why there would be. If he can go through Tartarus, why?
That's true.
You know, why couldn't he get through the bottom of the ocean? I don't know.
Yeah.
Why he wouldn't
Unless
be able
maybe
to.
that's kind of in the way that we, you know, they get the short end of both sticks, that like while he has those powers, there's just a limit to, because that is so much like Tartarus.
Pressure.
It wasn't like physical, like force being exerted down on his body. It was just the most hostile environment he could phically be in. But I think that's different than like your body being crushed
PSI,
and the ability to withstand basically like what are those called? Those machines that the hydraulic presses.
Right.
And maybe there's a limit to what because he's
where he would start to feel that pressure. Yeah. I don't know. I think that's an interesting thing that I'm curious about. And then we're gonna get to Houdini, but speaking of Tartarus,
I know.
I was like, I didn't remember that we got another name drop of somebody who survived Tartarus. Mm-hmm. I know. We need Houdini through Tartarus.
Yes.
Rick.
Yes.
Rick. Tap, tap, tap.
Well, you're writing a million other things.
Please write. He has the capacity. Please write Houdini through Tartarus. Please.
We're begging
Houdini, escape from Tartarus. Let's go.
Please.
I need to know. Anyway, that's a little bit jumping ahead, but just because we mentioned Tartarus, I was like, dang. But now he's in the water, and he is seeing something glimmering in the darkness, growing bigger and brighter, and he's again hearing that woman's voice that feels like his mom's voice, calling Percy Jackson. As she gets closer, the shape becomes clearer. She has flowing black hair, a dress made of green silk, like light flickering all around her, and her eyes were so distractingly beautiful that Percy hardly notices the stallion-sized seahorse she was riding, which is fun.
Huge. And I did have to do a quick Google just to be like, seahorses can't get huge, right? I was like, this
okay,
is.
I don't think they can.
Well, because when we had to Google whatever that fish was that got really in a previous chapter, the catfish is like a huge. I was like, can catfish really get that big? And we Googled it, and it was like they can get that huge.
Totally.
I was like, am I wrong in thinking that seahorses are itty bitty? And then it was like, no, they are teeny tiny.
Yeah.
Rick just had some fun. Made a real big one.
Poseidon can just like do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
But that does beg the question then, that makes you think it's a mythical seahorse of some kind.
Right.
If it is something different than what we would see in our mortal world. And so then what are the powers of said seahorse?
Or unless Poseidon is just kind of Alice in Wonderlanding, like, you go really big and you get really teeny tiny.
Poof,
and, you know.
boop. Yep.
Yeah.
I wonder, that was Cinderella, not Alice in Wonderland, but same concept. I do have a question. Can Percy mentally communicate with a seahorse?
I mean, in theory, it's a creature of the sea.
Oh, that's true. I was thinking more of the
like
horse, but he can communicate with every sea creature.
Yeah.
So he can double communicate.
He can extra communicate. He's really, really good at communicating with seahorses.
He does not hear, but he could if he wanted to.
Yeah. I mean, that's my understanding that he can kind
of...
Oh,
no, that's true. I forgot he can communicate with sea creatures. I was thinking, like...
Or at least, like, genuinely understand them, even if it's not the same, like, telepathic thing he's got with, like, the Pegasus stuff.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well. Anyway, she dismounts, and the seahorse and the Mako shark whisk off and start playing something that looked like tag, which is adorable, and I want to see that, and I love it so much.
That's so cute.
Especially because, like, I don't know, you would think a shark would, like, eat another sea creature, which I think is another point in the column of the seahorse maybe being, like, magical in some way. But I think, like, I don't know, it's just such a cutie little scene to imagine together.
No, I know.
And the underwater lady smiles at Percy and says, "You've come far, Percy Jackson. Well done," which is true. And also just like a nice moment of like validation that I feel like Percy can use, especially in the midst of like all these doubts he has right now. And Percy realizes, well, he bows because he's not sure what to do. And he realizes that, so when you don't know what to do in life, obviously, you bow.
Obviously. Naturally.
But, he realizes this is the same woman who spoke to him in the Mississippi River. And she explains that Nereids are spirits of the sea.
That's another word I said different in my brain. That's
how
been
did you say it?
in my brain.
Nereid. Again, I'm not saying I'm right about these things. This is just how I'm pronouncing them.
And I feel like I'm just discovering that my brain's gut reaction is always way off course. It's way off base. We're even getting remotely close.
You just have like a unique way of processing letters.
What a kind way of putting it.
I always got the positive reframe.
Other people make me feel better. Make me feel less alone. Comment the things and how you mispronounce them in your brain. Because all you ever did was read the word and never hear it said out loud.
Help Alisa out.
Help me, please.
But she explains that Nereids are spirits of the sea and Naiads are freshwater cousins of Nereids.
Yes.
And so that's a interesting like distinction that we get here, which is fun. And I was thinking when he was saying the water of the cool and the warm water earlier, which I thought was so cool that he could notice the difference.
Yeah.
Here in Puget Sound, it's a very interesting setup where there's water from the Pacific that comes in and glacier melt off. And so there's actually a combination of fresh water and seawater. And then there's certain spots where it like spirals. It's like a really interesting setup. So I guess my question is like, in the Puget Sound, are there Nereids and Naiads together? Is that like
family reunion
place
spot?
where they meet up? Yeah, family reunion. So that's my new headcanon, is that's the only place where you can find both, is places like that where both waters meet.
Okay, merch idea pitch.
Yes.
Family reunion style t-shirt for Puget Sound.
I love that. OMG. Okay.
We gotta make it.
For anyone who hasn't, for some reason you're starting on this episode and haven't heard the other ones before now, I have a dream of making a Percy Jackson themed subscription box called Apollo's Attic. And the idea is that it's all items that are in the attic at the big house that you get sent to you in a box. And I think that shirt would be a great item to include in that. Yeah. That's hilarious. I love it. There's a couple more things in here that I felt like would be good for that, like the monster yellow pages and stuff.
Oh my god, yeah. Oh yeah.
So she says that the Naiads honor Lord Poseidon even though they don't serve in his court, which is kind of interesting to think about sort of the underwater politics of it all. Right. And Percy confirms
what are the underwater unions? Sorry, I'm sidetracking us so much today, but what are the underwater unions?
I really want that to be a musical somehow.
Underwater unions?
Yeah. A musical about like Newsies but underwater.
Instead of in space, it's underwater.
Underwater. We'll get on that.
I'm just imagining Newsies happening underwater.
Couldn't be newspapers because they would get wet. So,
well, the person would be able to keep them dry.
He could. He's the newsboy.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever the underwater
maybe they write it on kelp or something. Yeah. But it could be a different type of union, obviously.
Yeah.
But through a contour and you go extra.
A pair of new shoes with.
Okay, my brain wants to go down the road of like mapping that musical out, and I'm not gonna do that right now. But maybe if and when we make a Patreon, that needs to be one of the things we do, because that's really funny.
Oh my god, that's really funny.
For anyone who's at that intersection of musicals and Percy Jackson, we appreciate that you listen to the pod.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we confirm that this Nereid is part of Poseidon's court.
Yes.
And that it has been many years since a child of the sea god has been born, which is interesting because I think that means we maybe are excluding Cyclopes from that because that has not been many years since Cyclopes. You know?
That's another one. My brain said Cyclopses. And choosing Cyclopes.
You're just adding an extra S?
I guess.
I like it. Well, it's like octopuses or, you know, like so many plurals.
But aren't octopus octopi? No.
I think it's octopuses. I think that's one that's weird.
Well, then Cyclopses would...
That's what I'm saying. It sounds like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're adding an extra S.
You're good. Well...
I'm sorry to inform you.
This is the episode
you can have your pronunciations.
I'm going to keep them.
I won't
They're going to be
them
mine.
From you. It's fine.
I don't want to change.
They're all yours. Never change.
I won't.
But anyway, I think we're not counting them, right? Because if we're saying it's been many, many years, which is a whole other issue that we will discuss next book. Like,
well, and that's like part of the crux of the issue in the Sea of Monsters is like dealing with the fact that basically Poseidon has all these kids that he just kind of like doesn't acknowledge.
Yeah, and like doesn't validate, but uses as like labor. It's actually quite dark,
messed up.
Depending on how. Oh, that's the union. The Cyclopes are forming a union in the underwater.
You say Cyclopes.
The new Cyclopes forming a union. It's just called Cyclopes, and then everyone can debate how to pronounce it.
Oh my god. Yeah, they're not doing a newspaper. It's like
well, because they're doing metal work, right?
Yeah, so they're doing like a label.
The metallurgy union.
It's the guild.
What rhymes with metallurgy? Oh, a guild. Sure.
Yeah.
I
think guild. We'll end it with guild
like
because you need to like build.
You can build in a guild. Sure.
I feel like for guild and metallurgy.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Oh man, this might be our most unhinged episode yet.
This is the
Thanks
episode
for,
of tangents on
us.
tangents on tangents. If you're still here, we appreciate you so much.
Yes, you're the best.
Yeah. Okay. Back to the book.
Back to the book.
What were we talking about?
Percy is remembering that he has seen, which in a different context could be super creepy, but he has seen the reflections of smiling women from the water. I'm sorry, now that we're like in Funnyland, it just sounds funny. I remember when I was a kid, all these women smiling up at me from the water, and now it all makes sense. Like so many things in my childhood that were strange.
Oh my god. Oh jeez. Oh man. Okay. Yes. Oh, but we do get serious now.
Okay.
In the book
we can do that. I have the giggles now.
But me too. Then Percy basically asks, if my father's so interested in me, why isn't he here? Why doesn't he speak to me? And then a cold current rose out of the depths, which I wondered if that was Poseidon being like,
absolutely. This is his version of Zeus's lightning.
Yeah, it's just being like cold water.
Yeah, a little less intense than lightning. It's like being disappointed instead of being angry, but it actually feels worse.
Yeah. And she tells him not to judge the Lord of the Sea too harshly, which is like, well, he's a god. I feel like I can judge.
I feel like everyone's always like, don't judge the gods too harshly. I'm like, that's my prerogative.
Yeah. I feel like when you're...
I think they've earned it.
An immortal being with immense power, I think I'm allowed to judge you a little harshly for your actions. But she says that he stands at the brink of an unwanted war and he has much to occupy his time. And it's funny because this is the last thing she's like, oh, and also he's forbidden to help you directly. So she comes up with all these other like excuses, and then
also
it's like
rules,
right? And then it's like, oh, but this one real thing, yeah. We
all just accept.
And And this is where we get the her explanation that the gods can only work by indirect influence with their children. They can't work directly, which just made me wonder, how did Athena get that hat past these rules? Because that feels like direct
and the
aid.
shoes too, right? Like Luke gets the shoes from his dad, so it seems like there might. Yeah, I don't know.
Annabeth says that Athena guided her towards Luke and Talia.
Which that could be more indirect. Like, that could have been through surrogates.
But
or
I feel like a hat, like a
maybe
gift
she follows an owl. My headcanon is now that Annabeth follows an owl too.
Yeah.
Luke and Talia, because I think that's sweet. But yeah, I don't know. It does seem like the rules are a little changeable. Like, sometimes a god could give their kid a gift directly. It almost feels like they can only do it when they're not, like, in mortal peril, which is kind of messed up, because that's, like, when you need a gift. But it's like they're not influencing a situation as much if they're doing it when it's just, like, dropping by camp one day.
Yeah, versus, like, if you're on, like, an official quest, maybe that's when it gets a little bit more, like...
Because wasn't the cap for her birthday?
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like it's like, well...
Maybe that's how it works.
Okay, maybe they can only get birthday presents from their parents. Maybe Luke's was on his birthday, too.
Right, maybe. Yeah.
Once a year.
Yeah. But then Percy does get a gift, kind of indirectly. So she tells him that the gods can only work by indirect influence, and that she comes with a warning with a gift. And so we get the gift first, which is 3 white pearls. And then this is where we get the little lore drop of who has survived Hades' realm. Orpheus, Hercules, and then Houdini, who could escape even the depths of Tartarus.
Wait, I'm sorry. One last tangent.
Yes.
I say that as if it will be the last one. Another musical thing, though, is that Orpheus and Hercules already have musicals about this.
The Houdini musical.
The Houdini musical.
Yes.
Houdini Escape from Tartarus, the musical.
Houdini Whodunit.
Except instead of whodunit question mark, it's whodunit exclamation point. Because he done it.
Houdini who did it. He escaped Tartarus.
He escaped Tartarus. So anyway, so that has to be a musical too, because Orpheus and Hercules both already have musicals about those experiences.
Yes.
Which, for anyone who's confused about what I'm talking about, Hadestown is a great musical, and you should check it out for Orpheus. And I think Hercules goes without saying. But aside from the animated Disney, it's now like on the West End and awesome in live form. So
yeah.
So good. But so anyway, okay. This is our musical episode, apparently.
We're just pitching all of our musical ideas.
Yep.
But yes, and she tells Percy, like, how they each survives. Like, Orpheus through his great music skill, Hercules with his great strength, and Houdini, I guess, just being, like, the world's greatest magician, like, escape artist.
Yeah.
And I love how she asks him, do you have these talents?
I know.
Like... asking a 12-year-old, do you have the musical gifts of Orpheus or the strength of Hercules?
Right.
You know, or the magic of Houdini?
Right.
Like,
right.
No. I'm 12.
And he goes, no, ma'am.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like back to, like, he bows and then also he reverts to ma'am sometimes when he's feeling like he's talking to, like, unimportant women in authority.
Yes.
Ma'am.
Yep. Yeah. But she then, it's funny because she then says, but you have something else, Percy. You have gifts you have only begun to know. The oracles have foretold a great and terrible future for you should you survive to manhood. And I just want to say, why is it always great and terrible? I feel like every lead character in any book with any sort of prophecy, it's like great and terrible.
Great and terrible. Yeah, classic, like, hero's journey combo.
Yeah.
Here's my question. Okay, so you could, like, if you don't read too closely, think that she's talking about the great prophecy, and this is kind of a way of saying, like, he is the child of the great prophecy. But the wording is, the oracles have foretold a great and terrible future for you should you survive to manhood, meaning after he reaches manhood, meaning there's another prophecy about him post the Great Prophecy once he is an adult. And again, I'm missing the context of the newest Percy and Annabeth books because I haven't read them, and we'll get there.
Well, I was thinking that this meant more like, should you make it far enough, like, you will experience that great and terrible future, but if you die before then, like, I wasn't thinking that it necessarily implied that, like, the great and terrible future was post-manhood, but that, like, he would only experience that, like, that's part of, like, on the way to, basically, as long as...
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think you could read it either way.
Either way, yeah.
But the wording says there's a great and terrible future for you should you survive to manhood. And the should you sounds like it's saying it's contingent upon. Is
that not, though, Heroes of Olympus?
Very possible.
I would argue. Because that takes place post...
How old is he?
If we're counting 16 as his manhood.
Oh, I guess if we're counting...
For the great prophecy of it all.
If we're counting 16 as manhood,
then I think Heroes of Olympus is the great and terrible future. So then that's
kind of fun that this is
maybe
foretelling Heroes of Olympus. But I was just kind of like, this feels post-Great Prophecy, and that's interesting.
Right,
and it's always interesting, like, to think about back when you were younger reading these books, and all the other books hadn't come out yet. It's like...
Yeah.
Implying this, series that will be way later.
Yeah,
setting it up.
Yes. And so, she gives him the pearls and says, when you're in need, smash a pearl at your feet. And Percy asks what will happen, and she explains that it depends on the need. But remember that what belongs to the sea will always return to the sea. And then Percy is, kind of locked into this moment. He's like, what about that warning? What is that about?
But see, I'm wondering, like, what else I want to know what the other outcomes of the pearls could be. Because, like, what belongs to the sea can always return to the sea is, like, what happens. And, like, but she says it depends on the need. So I don't have any theories, but I'm just like, what else could happen with these pearls,
Maybe you just wind up, like, in a different sea? Because it says what belongs to the sea will always return to the sea.
Yes.
So I don't know. That is, we could
it's just
theorize.
Interesting.
We could make some fun theories
we
about
could think
what
about
else
it.
We think
just because, like, she says it depends on the need.
Them.
So if we think about other situations, like what?
Maybe
so
you could like call the sea to you. I don't know if it was like more helpful to like flood in.
I like that.
The space. Like I'm remembering when they're in Heroes of Olympus in like the that dried out, what's it called? I'm forgetting all my words today. And Percy is able to like draw
the water.
But I'm wondering if it could all like you either get sent to the sea or maybe there's a way that you can like draw it.
I like that idea. It would be super interesting to be in more like a deserty type place and like call the ocean to you or something. Yeah. Ooh, I like this. That's interesting. Okay, I was just curious about that.
Yeah. And when Percy asks about the warning, her eyes flicker with green light. So I'm making a note of that for our like eyes and changing and whatnot. And she says, "Go with what your heart tells you, or you will lose all." And she specifically says that Hades feeds on doubt and hopelessness, and he will trick you if you can, make you mistrust your own judgment. And so basically she's kind of just saying, like, trust your gut, follow your intuition. And as she's leaving, Percy is trying to ask her about what she had said at the river about not trusting the gifts. What gifts?
Yeah.
And she's just like, goodbye, young hero. You must listen to your heart. And
so helpful.
She's like, again, with the indirect thing, I can only tell you certain pieces of information, which... The big question that I had about that was with the whole, like, gods can only exert influence in certain ways. They obviously know more information. I was just like, how does she know what gifts he should and should not trust? Like, how does this information work? Like, how does she know that? Because, and does she know specifically, or does she only know vaguely? In which case, because I'm like, if she knows specifically which gifts he shouldn't trust, and she knows why, I'm like, well, then how wouldn't Poseidon, like...
Yeah. Yeah, or is it more like somebody got a premonition that there are some untrustworthy gifts and that's able to be communicated? Also hilarious to give someone a gift after before that you told them to not trust gifts, you know, and it's like, okay, wait, but I can trust your gift?
Right,
like, it's kind of a funny series, sequence of events. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, one last thing she says. She specifically says, keep faith. Good luck, Percy Jackson.
Yes.
And I think it's interesting because we have been talking about the idea of faith, faithlessness, gods having faith, mortals and demigods having faith, like in the gods. So it's interesting that one of the things, like trust his heart, but also keep faith. I thought that was kind of an interesting thing that she says that too. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's a good thing to call out there. And Percy wants to follow her down. He wants to see the court of Poseidon, but he can look up and see that the sunset is darkening on the surface and that his friends are waiting and they're running out of time. So he comes back to the shore, and this time it says, when I reached the beach, my clothes dried instantly. So it's a little bit different. I was like, did he let himself get wet and then it was like kind of automatic dry off, or was it like the last time where he could feel that like he was not getting wet? I don't know. That just was interesting.
No, I agree. The wording's a little unclear.
Yeah. But he kind of recaps everything for Grover and Annabeth, and Annabeth very smartly points out that no gift comes without a price.
Which I was like the shoes, guys. Think about the shoes. Like, what other gifts have you received? Or the backpack?
No, truly.
Yeah.
And Percy goes, they were free, and she shakes her head and she says, there's no such thing as a free lunch. That's an ancient Greek saying that translated pretty well into American, which is so funny to say into American.
I know.
For Annabeth to say into American, not into English, into American.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
But I did Google. I tried to figure out if this was originally a Greek saying, and I was getting mixed results as to whether there's no such thing as a free lunch is truly a Greek saying or not. And I wasn't trying to spend like an hour deep diving. I think I spent about 5 minutes and went, well, I'm getting both yes and no here, but immediately then it just made me think of my big fat Greek wedding. And he's like, give me a word and I'll tell you. Its root is Greek.
That's true.
So yeah, it just made me think of that, and then I giggled.
Funny. Nice.
Yeah.
Love a giggle. And on the happy thought that there will be a price to pay, they turn their backs on the sea, and they finally use that spare change from Aries' backpack, because apparently Percy and Grover didn't keep their Lotus Casino cards, which again I ask why and what happened there a little bit. But they take a bus to West Hollywood and show the driver the underworld address slip that they had taken from Auntie M's Garden Gnome Emporium, which is kind of interesting because I'm going to posit that Krusty's is a very similar experience to Auntie M's in the sense of a completely unnecessary monster side quest that they get sort of roped into that is dangerous and results. I didn't even do that on purpose. Let's pretend I did. That they then discover underworld clues from. So it's like a really interesting parallel, I feel like.
No, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, nobody knows. No one's heard of DOA Recording Studios. This is something they're going to run into. And then I'm so proud of Percy.
Yes.
Because he thinks on his feet. This goes back to us saying Percy would be good at improv. And he has really grown from his circus story back at Antians, which is another thing in common with this part of the chapter. Where the bus driver, says, you remind me of someone I saw on TV. You a child actor or something? And Percy goes, I'm a stunt double for a lot of child actors.
It's so
that's
smart.
Really good.
I know. It's so smart, especially like being in the context of LA where people would be used to like anyone in the Hollywood industry, child actors, actors in general, this, would immediately be like, oh yeah, stunt double, I know what you're talking about. And would also be able to be like, oh yeah, stunt doubles are supposed to look a lot like the actors that they're doing the stunts for. And so it would make sense that, to me,
it seems recognizable features or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's
Totally.
so smart. It's truly
It's
so
so
smart.
smart. He's really grown. I appreciate it. And the bus driver says, oh, that explains it, and like totally accepts it. So that's really helpful too. Yeah. But they get off as quickly as they can. They go for miles on foot. Nobody knows where DOA is. It's not in the phone book. So that's all like interesting as well.
Yes.
You know, kind of like the 600th floor. Yes.
I'm going to ask you a question, which we might have talked about before. I don't remember.
Okay.
At what point do you remember getting what DOA recordings stood for?
It was
when
a
do you
long
remember
time,
that
I think.
clicked?
I'm pretty sure that it wasn't until I was an adult that I even thought that it might have been an acronym for something. Yeah, no.
So I read these books all of elementary school. I was just like, no clue. But I could tell I was missing something. I was like, it was like, he always names things for a reason, but I don't know what this is. I'm pretty sure it was not until either the end of high school or the very beginning of college that I went, oh, Dead on Arrival.
Dead on Arrival.
I was like, oh, that
I think my brain
so
just like
sense.
accepted that, because like so many things like recording studios just like have acronyms, and like I just like didn't think too hard about it.
Right.
But then once I did, I was like, oh, duh, that's really
It was one of those moments where I was like, oh my God, that took me way too long. It took me way too long to realize what that meant.
But I love it. I think,
I
think that's a great acronym. And it's also funny that it's a recording studio and it's in LA, and it like works out really well.
Oh yeah.
But nobody seems to know where it is. And twice they ducked into alleys to avoid cop cars. They're kind of like on foot through LA trying to like be sneaky. And then unfortunately we get to an appliance store window and we stop because Melly Gabe is on the news talking to Barbara Walters, which really
is crazy.
Know
that's wild.
Like, it's crazy, but also
like 2005, he got a Barbara Walters interview.
No, that's wild. And also, does anyone who's like 8 right now reading this book know who Barbara Walters is? Like, that's one of the funny things about books that have specific like name drops and stuff.
Yeah.
I just think that's funny, but the whole thing is really gross.
Yeah.
He says that she's interviewing him as if he were some kind of huge celebrity in the apartment in the middle of a poker game. There's a young blonde lady sitting next to him, patting his hand. He has a fake tear glistening on his cheek, and he's going on about how if it wasn't for Sugar here, his grief counselor, he'd be a wreck.
For audio listeners, I rolled my eyes.
Huh?
I said for audio listeners, I rolled my eyes.
Oh yeah, for audio listeners, I grimaced. Sarcastically. My stepson took everything I cared about, my wife, my Camaro, which I'm like surprised he managed to put it in that order.
I know.
And then he pretends to get choken up about it. And then Barbara Walters is like, there you have it, America. A man torn apart. An adolescent boy with serious issues. Let me show you again the last known photo of this troubled young fugitive taken a week ago in Denver, which is kind of funny, like, it's been a week, you know? But there's that photo that we heard about, which is why you were pointing. Yes. And it's a grainy shot of Annabeth and Grover and Percy standing outside of the diner talking to Aries, which is like big red flag, I would say, like for the adults to be thinking about.
Yes.
But she dramatically says, who are the other children in this photo? Who is the man with them? Is Percy Jackson a delinquent, a terrorist, or perhaps the brainwashed victim of a frightening new cult? When we come back, we chat with a leading child psychologist. Stay tuned, America. Which I'm just like, it's so dramatic.
I know.
Again, we keep saying this. He's 12.
Yeah.
Like, can we just...
Yeah.
Like... Stop assuming that a 12-year-old is the problem and no adults are at fault and the stepdad is not suspicious at all, etc. Like, I just feel like this is shoddy police work and reporting work and
but it also feels so accurate to me with how much everything for so long has just been like about how to make it as sensational as possible.
Absolutely.
And, you know, like, so it's like, yes, and it feels so true
for sure.
Oh yeah, that's exactly how it would be handled.
It makes sense to the news context and also is frustrating and dumb.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
is what I have to say. But Grover pulls Percy away before he can punch a hole in the appliance store window, which is good.
Yeah.
Because I understand why he would be really angry.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then we get this really interesting description of like how LA feels very different from New York from Percy's view, and this kind of like feeling of in New York, because everything was in such a grid, he always felt like no matter where he was, he couldn't get lost, and like everything made sense, and you know, as long as you kind of had your wits about you as a kid, you could feel safe and know that you could get yourself where you needed to go, but that LA is like spread out and chaotic and it's hard to move around. And what fascinated me so much was that he said it reminded me of Aries.
I know.
And then that made me want to think about like what cities are associated with which gods, like what cities do you feel like have like the energy of a particular god,
especially because like we do know that in ancient Greece different cities had different gods as like their patrons and stuff, like the way that Athena and Poseidon tried to like both give a gift to Athens to figure out who their god would be. So I agree, I think it would be really interesting to think about what cities represent or are aligned with what gods. So we should circle back to that for sure.
Yes, we absolutely should. But yeah, he's kind of getting like overwhelmed by LA, and the comparison to Aries is that like LA has to be big, and it feels like it had to prove it was big by being loud and strange and difficult to navigate.
One thing I wondered, I haven't noticed this with Percy before, and I don't remember if it comes up at any other time, so this may not be a thing, but something that can happen with ADHD is like sensory sensitivities, and the way he described big, loud, strange, difficult to navigate, like it made me wonder if there's any part of that that's coming up from his ADHD.
Yeah. Well, and even like, because New York is a notoriously loud city, but if you have that grid, you know, like, I don't know, I could, like,
he would feel oriented at least.
Yeah. But yes, they're basically, I feel like, pretty much lost. And when Percy hears a voice from the darkness say, "Hey, you," and he stops, which you shouldn't do. And they end up surrounded by 6 kids with expensive clothes and mean faces, and he's reminded of the kids from Yancey Academy. And just on pure instinct, he uncaps Riptide.
So,
which is...
It's very wild reaction,
Yes.
But your face was 6, you know, people attacking you, surrounding you.
And however it appears to them, like... I'm not totally sure, but the leader charges at him, and Percy fully swings the sword.
It's wild.
It's so wild. It's truly like, I feel like he must just be like discombobulated between the Lotus Casino, being in an unfamiliar city in LA, and I guess the last time, you know, he used the sword, he was fighting a monster, and so he's just like, this is what someone charges at me. I'm just supposed to swing my sword around.
And they do have a switchblade, so it's like a type of, you know, knifey.
It's a very West Side Story.
It is. You brought a magical sword to a knife fight.
Yeah. But this is the first time we see the sword interacting with the mortal, because the blade passes harmlessly right through his chest, which... the kid is able to somehow tell that something happened because he looks down and goes, "What the?" And luckily is like thrown off enough that Percy yells at Annabeth and Grover to run, and they push 2 kids out of the way, and they're like racing down the street, turning
and they're being chased
corner.
by them.
Yes,
we end up seeing them run by later.
Yes, and Annabeth shouts there, and there's only one store on the block that looks opened, and Percy can't really make out what it says, his like dyslexia, and I love it that again we get what the sign looks like to him, which then Grover reads is Krusty's Waterbed Palace. And they like burst through the doors and run behind a waterbed and duck basically just in time, because then those kids run past outside, but you know, luckily we don't see them.
Which I wonder if like they might have should have just confronted the kids because of what happens at Krusty's.
Yes.
But again, we need the address. So I think, I just think that's kind of why we're here. But in general, I don't feel like Annabeth is the best at picking out places for them to go. So I just like, she's great at a lot of things, but I don't really want to go wherever she thinks we should go a lot of the time. And
back to the start, it was Annabeth's idea.
It was exactly, yes. I'm just saying. And then I think, I don't know, like in general, I feel like this is another one where it's like red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag as you're like going through it. And I mean, he's hard to escape for sure.
Oh my gosh,
but I feel like, I wouldn't go here if I were them. But Grover says, I think we lost them. And a voice booms behind them. Lost who? They all jump. And I'm like, that's the first one. Let's leave right now.
Yeah.
We already saw the kids run by. And then we get the description of a guy who looked like a raptor in a leisure suit, which is a wild description.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
what a kind of way
I don't even know how to conceptualize that. Really. Honestly. He's at least 7 feet tall. Again, there's just a lot of red flags happening here. With absolutely no hair. He had gray leathery skin, thick-lidded eyes, and a cold reptilian smile. He moved toward us slowly, but I got the feeling he could move fast if he needed to. And again, scary. All of that's scary.
Well,
leave immediately.
I feel like every monster we've encountered so far has been described with leathery skin, pretty much.
Yes, there's so much leathery skin happening.
And so I feel like if you're a demigod and you feel like you could describe someone's skin as leathery, that's
Get out. Or they're wearing a leather jacket, or there's just any leathery anything happening.
Yeah.
Leave, evacuate immediately. The other thing I want to say is back to like when we were talking about Echidna's description and the unnecessary fatphobia of it.
Yeah.
This is such a good example of how to describe a reptilian-like monster without resorting to like stereotyping and oppressive language. Like this is
and also how
perfect
to describe a like large physically imposing monster.
Reptilian. Exactly. But of course this is a man, so it's going to be described differently. But I just really thought when I was reading this, like that would have been a really much better way to describe Echidna.
Yeah.
And then I also thought that like, because I think one of the reasons that some like of the bigger lizards can be kind of scary is because they seem really lethargic, but then when you see them run, like they run really fast. And that's like kind of a terrifying contrast, you know? And so I thought describing that as like he's moving slowly, but Percy can tell he can go really quick. And then how quickly he's able to move later is like a really cool feature to incorporate into his physicality.
Yeah. It's like alligators and crocodiles. You don't think they should be able to go that fast. And then it's terrifying. Yep.
And then I'm thinking of like the Captain Hook one running. Oh no, yeah. They're scary. So that's wild. And then he says that the suit might have come from the Lotus Casino because it looked like it belonged in the 70s, which was kind of funny. And he's got a silk shirt that's paisley print button halfway down. He's got a hairless chest, so no hair on this guy as far as we can tell. He's got lapels on his velvet jacket as wide as landing strips and silver chains around his neck, so many that he couldn't even count them. So it's a whole vibe that we're setting up here. But the reptilian vibe, the leathery vibe, the 7 feet tall vibe tells me that we need to be getting out of here. But he introduces himself as Krusty with a tartar yellow smile. And Percy resists the urge to say, yes, you are, which is kind of funny and surprising that he resists that urge because Percy usually isn't too afraid to say what's on his mind. And he says, sorry to barge in. We were just browsing. And I feel like that should have been, we were just leaving.
Yes.
But it's not. And then Krusty has an interesting thing to say, which is, you mean hiding from those no good kids? They hang around every night. I get a lot of people in here thanks to them, which is very interesting. And definitely makes me wonder, like, if they're in any way, shape, or form encouraged by him or in cahoots in some way. Like, I don't know what the advantage is for each of them necessarily, but it just made me wonder that.
No, I had the same thought, and I'm realizing I forgot to look up one of the things that I meant to, which is Krusty's original myth, because it felt like sometimes I feel like there are myths where, like, there are people who serve the purpose of kind of like corralling, you know, like towards a monster and like doing the job of being like, here, I've
right,
brought
like
you.
If there was an analog for that one.
If there was, if in the original myth, was there like a group of raiders who, you know, or something like that, who were kind of always around and like crowd
kind of like the turtle and the pirate. Later.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yes. If it's
we can look that up. Yeah, I'm not. Let us know if you know. I don't. Yeah. I forgot to look this one up too. But then Krusty says, "Say, you want to look at a waterbed?" And Percy's about to say no thanks when he puts a huge paw, and he calls it paw, on my shoulder and steered me deeper into the showroom. And I'm just like, there are so many red flags. And again, the bulls are running. The bulls are charging. Let's get out of here.
Truly.
But here's where we run into an issue, where Percy says here that there was every kind of waterbed you could imagine, different kinds of wood, different patterns of sheets, queen size, king size, emperor of the universe size, which hilarious sizing. I love that. And I would absolutely sleep in an emperor of the universe size bed. Love a big bed. But later, Krusty says, all the beds are exactly 6 feet, you see? Your friends are too short. Gotta make them fit. And I was just like, okay, which one is it?
Maybe it's the width. You know, it's like how
they're all 6 feet, but then they're different widths.
But they're all it's about how much like room you got to roll sideways.
Okay,
and not necessarily
maybe that's what
like,
it is.
Yeah.
I was just like,
No, that's true.
Because like, you know, a king size bed is taller than 6 feet.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was curious of what that means. But Krusty says that his most popular model, which is a bed covered in black satin sheets and built-in lava lamps on the headboard, which I feel like in middle school, lava lamps are like the coolest thing ever. At least they were. So I'm like, this is very, like, it's very intriguing for sure.
It feels very 70s.
Very much.
To me.
Very much, yes. Which goes with the aesthetic that he's got going on.
Yeah.
So far, and he calls it the million hand massage. So it's not just a waterbed, it's a massaging waterbed somehow, which is really interesting, the logistics and mechanics of that.
Right.
But he says, go on, try it, shoot, take a nap, I don't care, no business today anyway. So I guess this is his sort of like salesman's approach of how to get people to get on the beds.
Yes, and Percy's about to say, no, I don't think so, when Grover hops in and is like, I'm down, this is so cool.
Oh, Grover.
Which is just like, come on, man. Like,
also, like, what happened to Grover's nose? We haven't mentioned the nose. Like, that's an interesting thing here is, like, does LA just sort of smell like monsters? Because we haven't established that, like, the way the underground smells like monsters.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've been able to know, like, why either Grover is smelling something and he's telling them they're not listening, or he isn't and we know why. So I feel like here we're kind of missing the information of, like, how does Grover not smell that Krusty is a monster? I am wondering that.
No, I had that same question as well, because Grover is really like the first domino to fall, who's like down to try. And Percy is like, Percy and Annabeth are both kind of like picking up on there's something else going on, because when Krusty responds with almost, Percy's like, almost what? What are you talking about is almost. But then Krusty, like, so Krusty has Grover already kind of like set up in one bed, and he's goes to Annabeth and he's like, do me a favor and try this one over here, honey, which I literally just had to make a note of, like, it sent chills down my spine.
Oh yeah, this whole thing is creepy and icky and terrible, and I hated it.
That he called her honey, I was like, ugh.
But can I just, like, how tall is Grover? Because he's not almost 6 feet tall. Like Like, he says, almost. I'm like, Grover is not almost fitting, and neither is Annabeth. And, like, Krusty thinks that they can get stretched and maybe survive the process later. And I'm like, I don't think so. Like, I think these are 12-year-olds. I don't think they're fitting on this bed. Like, I'm 5'3.5" on a good day. Like, I would not fit here, and I would probably die being stretched. They're shorter than me. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. Maybe he's just like downplaying it, but this whole section is creepy and terrible and gross, where Krusty is like literally pushing Annabeth onto the bed, and I just have never hated it more than this read through, having to like sit down and like mark every part of it.
No, absolutely, because Annabeth is protesting. She's like, but what? And she like says, hey, like, and protests, but he like makes her lie down. He pushes her down onto the bed, and this is then the first time that he snaps his finger and says, ergo? Ergo? Ergo?
I think ergo.
Which I looked it up. Oh. Okay, what did you find?
We both looked it up. Okay, so I looked it up, and in Greek it means work, and in Latin, because obviously like ergo ipso facto blah blah blah.
Yes.
It means therefore in Latin.
Right.
I assume we're talking Greek, which would mean work or something similar to that, which didn't quite. I didn't quite
like a
understand,
command
like,
for the ropes.
Do the thing,
like,
I guess, is... Yeah.
That
what
makes
did you
sense.
find?
Well, I was only finding Latin, and I was having a hard time finding Greek. I literally put it into Google Translate, and Google Translate went, no.
Well, you have to remember, ancient Greek and Greek are not the same language, right? So
yes.
I looked it up. That might have been part of why.
I was doing lots of Googling, and I was just not looking in the right place, because everything was telling me that's Latin, that's not Latin. Greek, and I was like, I don't think.
Well, I think that like we use it more in the Latin meaning these days of like ergo, X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yes, when he snaps his fingers and says ergo, the result is that ropes spring from the sides of the bed and hold Annabeth and Grover to the mattresses. And Grover in particular is then being extra massaged with the million hand massage he's being held, and he's like, no, not cool. Kind of funny.
Yes.
If it wasn't so dangerous. And then he again says, almost, darn it, looking at Annabeth, and I'm just like, no. These kids are short. These are 12-year-olds. Whatever.
Yes. But what I found really interesting is the fact that Krusty kind of like zeroes in on Grover and Annabeth and tells Percy like, we'll find you one in a sec.
I know.
And after Percy says, let my friends go, he's like, oh sure I will, but I gotta make them fit first. And he like lets Percy ask him like, what do you mean? And then he explains that the beds are exactly 6 feet and that his friends are too short and he has to make them fit because he can't stand in perfect measurements. And then we get ergo again, and a new set of ropes come out from the top and bottom, wrapping around Grover and Annabeth's ankles and then around their armpits. And so the ropes are now pulling from they're pulling from many directions now.
They're basically being tortured now.
Yes, fully. And Krusty's just kind of, again, continuing to explain to Percy, not having trapped him on a bed yet, just saying like, oh, these are stretching jobs, maybe an extra 3 inches on their spine. They might even live. And then this is when he says, now why don't we find you a bed? You like, huh? And I don't know, I just found it really interesting because he gets Grover and Annabeth on their beds incredibly quickly.
And he's very quick because he's able to shoot his hand out and do all these things like super quickly. Yeah, it does feel one of those where, I don't know, maybe we have to suspend some disbelief here that he thinks like one kid can't take him or something of like why he wouldn't have all 3 of them at the same time. I mean, it's helpful to to the shoot, but again, I'm sorry to harp on this, but if we only had to add, like, are Annabeth and Grover canonically like 5'9"?
You're not over this.
Because Krusty says they only need 3 inches on their spine to get to 6 feet.
Well, he says the beds are 6 feet. Yes. He doesn't ever say that they must be the exact length of the bed.
Yes,
maybe he's got a golden...
He says can't stand imperfect measurements.
Well, yes, but what if he's got a ratio of if you're in a 6-foot bed, you must be, like, there must be a certain ratio of your height.
But then Percy says, what do you do if they're longer than 6 feet? That happens all the time. I lop them off. Thus implying that 6 feet is the perfect measurement.
No, I'm not.
Thus implying that Annabeth and Grover are 5'9". Which is a weird image in my head now that I can't get out. Like, Percy's 12-year-old size and Annabeth is like 6 inches taller than me.
Well, but to finish making my case of maybe it's not that he's making them 6 feet tall, but again, if he's like, if you're in a 6-foot bed, maybe his ideal ratio is that you're like 5'5" or something. Like you can still be taller, and he could lop you off to being right at 5'5".
That's just not how I read it.
No, but it's not how I've ever read it either. But for trying to make some sort of like way where they're not just
the only logical conclusion is that Annabeth
they're
and Grover
incredibly
are
tall.
way taller than I ever thought they were.
They are. Wait, did I ever make you watch Tall Girl? That movie on Netflix.
No, but you told me about it. They are Tall Girl?
They are Tall Girl. They are Tall
Annabeth
Girl.
And Grover are Tall Girl. I'm sorry, y'all. This is the giggle chapter apparently, but I just can't make it mean anything.
So you
different.
need to they're all now 5'9". They're
just
rocking.
All of them?
all of them are 5'9".
Giant. Well, they're demigods,
incredibly
so
tall
maybe that
12-year-olds.
just makes them tall.
That's true. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But returning back to Krusty and the waterbed palace.
The perilous situation that we find our heroes in.
Yes. Percy's kind of had enough time now to realize, with the ropes and stuff, he's like, we're facing a monster. And the first thing he says is,
no kidding.
Your real name's not Krusty, is it? Which is like,
I know,
well,
he's
obviously.
Like worried about this.
Like a little, like, no offense, but it's a little bit of like a no Sherlock situation.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, at this point, it's pretty clear. And he says, Krusty responds with, legally, it's Procrustes.
Legally is hilarious.
I know.
I think,
government
like,
name.
legally with whom?
Legally with the gods.
With the gods, I guess.
And Percy remembers the stretcher and the story of the giant who tried to kill Theseus with excess hospitality on his way to Athens.
Which I think is why he's asking about the name. Like, I think the reason is so that he
absolutely.
can, like with Medusa, or like, it's been helpful to identify what monster he's facing so he can remember the story. Because, again, Chiron, great Latin teacher. Yeah. Like, Percy did learn a lot from, this was on the test, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Though it continues to be funny that, continue finding it funny that, like, it seems like he taught them all of the Greek versions in
Latin class. I know, I still think that's funny too.
But anyways, so they kind of have this like back and forth where Percy, very smartly, I guess, kind of starts to realize, I guess based on what just happened, that like this guy's down to talk, and he kind of like vamps and builds this relationship.
Which makes sense for a salesman. They do like,
absolutely.
That is like a talking profession.
And I think Percy's kind of like doing a couple things here. He's trying to delay getting forced onto a bed, and I think he's trying to like build this rapport and this relationship so that he can do his incredibly smart plan, in my opinion, that he ends up actually executing. But he kind of like, when, Krusty's like, but nobody can pronounce it Krusty, everybody can say it, and Percy's like, it's got a good ring to it too. And then that gets Krusty excited. He's like, you think so? And Percy's like, absolutely. And he's complimenting how nice the beds are. And, like, that makes Krusty super happy. I think remembering that story of, like, the excess hospitality and, like, playing into, like, everything is so nice. And, like, the workmanship and all of that stuff, I think, was very smart on Percy's part. And what's kind of funny is, like, Annabeth isn't really picking up on it. She's like, Percy, what are you doing? Which,
she's just
to be
freaking
fair,
out.
If I were getting stretched and then I saw my friend,
like,
the only person free, I would also be like, what on earth are you doing?
Yeah.
Yes, like, get me out of here right now.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, we get another kind of like Percy's playing into it by being like, don't mind her. She's impossible.
I know.
You can't take her anywhere.
It was her idea.
Yeah. And we get another, he says, Krusty replies with, all my customers are never 6 feet exactly, so inconsiderate. And then they complain about the fitting. Yes, no, I know. I was just trying to find a way to make it logical where they didn't
You were
have to be
being
5'9".
Annabeth and Grover when they were trying to pretend that it wasn't Kronos and it could still be Hades. And it's just not what the text says. But I do want to posit that Krusty has OCD because he is really focused on a very exact situation here. Yeah. What he said earlier, where he's like, where he's just like, can't stand imperfect measurements.
Yeah. He just needs therapy, and then he will stop murdering people.
What we really, the solve for all the problems in this universe is monster therapy.
Yeah.
That's the solve.
Yep. Yeah. And so, then Percy asks what Krusty does if they're longer than 6 feet. And he's like, oh, it's like just a simple fix. I just center as best I can and lop off whatever hangs off on either end.
Rough.
And Percy, I think, starting to kind of freak out, is like, very sensible. And the ropes are stretching. Annabeth is turning pale. Grover's now just making gurgling sounds like a goose that's just like kind of dying. And this is where Percy really starts to put the plan into motion. Yes. He's like trying to keep his voice light, and he's going to the Valentine shaped one, and he goes, does this one really have dynamic stabilizers to stop wave motion? And Krusty's like, absolutely, try it out. And Percy's like, oh, maybe I will, but could it even work for someone as big as you? You know, like, you're such a tall guy, like, no waves at all. He's like, guaranteed. And Percy's like, no way, I don't believe it. And Krusty replies with, way. I love that he's like,
no way.
Like,
it feels like, we're in LA. Like, I don't know, it feels like the vibe.
No, absolutely. And Percy says, show me. And so Krusty sits down eagerly on the bed and pats the mattress and goes, no waves, see? And then Percy snaps his fingers and says, ergo. And ropes lash around Krusty and flatten him against the mattress. Which, I just have to say, this is truly a moment of brilliance on Percy's part.
Absolutely.
And I feel like really shows how much he has grown over the course of, like, the quest and just his time in general, because I think Echidna really showed him that, like, he's not always going to be able to fight his way out of something.
He realizes he can't pull Riptide out fast enough and do something like that.
And also just that, like, sometimes monsters are just too physically powerful. Like, they are just more powerful than he is. And he cannot just use his sword. He has to think of other ways. And I feel like this is really the first time where we see him putting that into practice and realizing, like, I'm not going to be able to physically take this guy down. He's massive. He's 7 feet tall. He's going to be so much stronger than me. And so, like, he comes up with this workaround that I just think is brilliant. And Percy, after the ropes lash on Krusty, he says, center him just right, and the ropes readjust themselves on Percy's command, which I do have to say on Krusty's part, poor design to just make them generally voice activated.
Can do it. Yeah.
Anyone can do it. I'm like, you didn't make it just to, like, your voice.
Specific. Yeah. Maybe that's just not part of the magic.
Yeah, I guess not. And so the ropes readjust themselves with Krusty's head sticking out the top and his feet sticking out the bottom. And Krusty's like, no, wait, this is just a demo. And Percy, fully in character, goes, a few simple adjustments.
Yeah, he's kind of scary here. I feel like he's like a little drunk on power in this moment.
Well, because then he says, I had no qualms about what I was about to do. If Krusty were human, I couldn't hurt him anyway. If he was a monster, he deserved to turn into dust for a while.
Yes. I thought that was a really interesting line because it's such an assertion of belief. And I feel like it's something that he will then later have to confront in Tartarus. But for now, it's like he's forming his worldview within this new reality he's entered. Yes. And he doesn't know everything yet. He doesn't for sure know how he feels about the gods, but he really knows how he feels about monsters. And he has been attacked by several, and I understand why he would be like, this is scary. And he did just swing through a mortal to know for sure that the sword wouldn't hurt a mortal. But the way in which he's like, I literally had not one qualm.
I know.
Like, wow. Like, I feel like that gives you the sense of, like, maybe there is a world where he could have been turned by Kronos or gone down the path of Luke or something like that. Because you see this, like, I can have a black and white thinking about a thing and do something violent as a result of it.
Absolutely. Well, and I think it's such an interesting moral philosophy to start to develop, and that he ties it to his sword in like, if my sword cannot hurt you, you don't deserve to be hurt. Right. If my sword can hurt you, you deserve, like,
which is interesting when it comes to demigods.
Yes. Well, and also then at the end, he kind of throws that out the window with Gabe.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's a really interesting moral philosophy that Percy starts to develop here, that yes, he then has to confront in Tartarus. And it's also one that I will not spoil anything for Anna, but we continue to have to confront this later on.
That's exciting.
Things that she has not read yet that I have.
Great.
But yes, I think it is so fascinating to have this introduced in book 1, and then for me knowing all of the many ripples of like ramifications that will kind of come afterwards, and like how much this moral philosophy will have to be confronted like later on down the line and kind of reckoned with.
It's like so early, like we're not even done with book 1 yet, so it is it happens so quickly. And Krusty's just full salesman mode. Yeah. He's like, you drive a hard bargain. I'll give you 30% off selected floor models. Like, that's where we get it. It starts to get kind of funny. No money down, no interest for 6 months. And I'm also looking at these like, you're about to die. I actually feel like you could do better with your offers, but whatever.
But Percy is like, again, he's lost in like this moment of power, and he says, I think I'll start with the top.
I know, he's kind of scary.
Oh, he's a little bit scary. And then he swings the sword, and it says, Krusty stopped making offers.
Yep.
It's a little chilling.
It is. It absolutely is.
The description. But then he immediately goes and cuts the ropes on the other beds, freeing Annabeth and Grover, who are like groaning and wincing and cursing a lot. And Percy decides to crack a joke and say, you look taller. To which Annabeth
taller than 5'9".
She's so close to 6 feet. But Annabeth doesn't find it very funny, and she just tells him to be faster next time. But then Percy looks at the bulletin board behind Krusty's sales desk and sees an advertisement for Hermes delivery service and another for the all-new compendium of LA area monsters. The only monstrous...
Make a good item.
The only monstrous yellow pages you'll ever need. And then underneath that, a bright orange flyer for DOA recording studios offering commissions for heroes' souls. We're always looking for new talent. With the DOA's address right underneath.
Which I love.
Yes. And so Percy's like ready to go, and Grover's like, please, I need a minute. I was almost stretched to death. And then Percy, still feeling quippy, goes, then you're ready for the underworld. It's only a block from here.
Which, that's convenient. That works out.
Very convenient.
Also, probably not an accident.
No. Well, because the commissions for heroes' souls, and then Krusty being right there. It's...
Yeah, because like the souls don't have to go very far once they die at Krusty's.
They really don't.
Though I feel like he's getting a lot of like anyone coming in there, which is unfortunate. Like, it's not just demigods, you know?
Yeah.
Which is sad. So I'm glad, depending on how fast he reforms, that won't be happening for a while. Yeah. But one thing I was thinking about with this part is like, I think as you were talking about how Percy has grown a lot in his strategy, that this also feels like a moment for Percy to start developing his own way of getting out of situations. Yeah. Because I think there's like a particular kind of strategy that involves playing dumb a little bit. And I was thinking, like, what would Annabeth do if she was the one who wasn't on a bed? And I think it's really hard for characters who are like very, very intelligent and pride themselves on being intelligent to ever play dumb. Like, I don't think she would have used that same type of strategy. And so it's like interesting to see him developing his own approach that's based on like some charm, some playing dumb, you know, like kind of lulling someone into a trap. It's not really about, like, there's a cleverness there, but it's not leading with that. It's like leading with a deception. And I just thought that it was like interesting to see him start to create that for himself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like there are times where we see, I'm blanking on specific examples right now, but where we see Annabeth use her like trickery, like her intelligence, you know, like.
But I don't think she's ever going to pretend that she's not smart.
Yeah. It's like a different, that's that different ingredient to both of their approaches. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh man, what a chapter. It's kind of, it's another one of those, like, we met a monster, we got delayed kind of things. We figured out some stuff on our cork boards. But we also get like some underwater time, and you know, we make it all the way from Vegas to LA. We get to kind of get to know the city a little bit, at least on the top side, and we get the address,
which is crucial.
Yep, really important. I think kind of why we went to Krusty's. So, any final thoughts, final themes for this chapter?
Yeah, I feel like we're kind of just like continuing to see how the team both works really well together and individually, you know, like we're gelling as a team, we're talking, we're communicating, we're like brainstorming the back of the taxi, but we're also still like Annabeth taking charge with being like, hey, let's see if this casino card works.
Yeah.
And Percy winding up being the one to kind of get him out of the situation at Krusty's. I feel like we're really now in the flow of, we work really well together as a team, but we also have our moments where each person kind of like stands out, and like takes charge on their own. And
yeah, so it's kind of a Grover light chapter, I would say.
It was. Yeah.
Overall.
Yeah, it really was. But I am just really excited for the next chapter because we're finally getting into the underworld, and we only have 5 chapters left.
That's wild.
I know. It's really wild. I can't believe we're basically done with this book.
This is very exciting. I feel like this chapter, there was like really good nuggets in it, but I was also like, let's get to the underworld. Let's get to the underworld.
I know.
Like, let's go.
I know. Well, especially because the title of the next chapter and just knowing what's going to happen.
No. It's so exciting.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
Yeah.
Well then, without further ado, we will see you next week when we read chapter 18, Annabeth Does Obedience School. Bye.
Bye.